Some women chase success, others become leaders worth following. Okay, welcome back to the podcast, guys. I'm actually super excited. This is deep down, whether it's the first episode we published or not, this is actually the first recording that we've had with another leader across the desk. Very excited to have my gal Shelby here. She's a wedding filmmaker who is leading the industry in innovative, extraordinary experiences. She creates cinematic wedding films for couples. She's a social media and visibility coach and educator for wedding vendors who want to go above and beyond in experiences for their couples and be seen and paid for their excellence. And she's also been a wonderful client of mine for a long time. And I'm so pumped to have Shelby here because I think has just been pivotal in my journey as well in really leaning into the leadership side of my coaching. Like Shelby asked me the best questions. She always pulls the best juice out of me. So I already know this is going to be such a good conversation. So welcome, Shelby.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes.
I just want to put it out there. It's extraordinary wedding experiences. That's the tagline, extraordinary.
Yes.
I don't know. I wonder where that came from, actually. I think I just kept saying it and you're like, you're always saying that.
Yes. This is special. This is the thing.
This is the special.
Yes. That's my favorite thing about you. So that's my first question for you anyway. My favorite thing about you is how innovative you are. And even when I very first met you and you know, were like coming up in your industry, I was immediately like, wow, this chick is always doing stuff no one else has done. Or she's just owning these big, like, you know, you were like trademarking things and being like, this is how we're going to do it, that no one else has done it. And I was like, that's so brave and badass. And I was like, of course there's chicks in my DMs. I'm excited. And so I want you to tell us, like, please expand us. Tell us some of the things that you're doing in the wedding industry or that you've done or you've created that, just weren't seen before and you've just made your own.
Yeah, I think it's interestingly enough that you say this because whenever I go to expos or network with like other wedding vendors, that is the number one comment I get. They're like, what's new? What's happening? What are you bringing out? They're like, they expect that. And I'm like, of course you expect that.
You're not like, oh, you're just doing the same thing.
No, I would never. I would never. I meant to innovate. I meant to bring something new.
Yes,
and I think the powerful part of this is that this has a flow-on effect to all the wedding vendors I work with. I know this isn't the question though, but I guess things that I've done. Okay, things that I've done. I would say the biggest thing is building out the Wedding Vendor Academy. It is the only space just for wedding vendors to absolutely blow the fuck out of their business, be like fully seen, fully paid, fully in their leadership, and then the flow-on effect of each and every wedding vendor creating something so extraordinary, innovating, you know, thinking outside the box, right? And as well as that, being paid to do so. And that is the number one key part, is being paid to do the extraordinary thing.
Which unfortunately is a little bit weird in the wedding industry.
Unfortunately,
there's a lot of people not being paid out there.
I know. And this is, you know, part of my mission. It's really showing Wendy's. Yeah.
Showing the Wendy's.
Yeah. Showing the Wendy's. God, that'll be a nickname for the wedding vendors. Showing wedding vendors that it is so possible to have a fully spacious wedding business that pays you without having to work, you know, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Doing a 4-wedding weekend is disgusting. Being fully booked is not a flex, right? Being booked and paid, that's the flex.
That's sexy.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny about this whole thing though is you, like, everything you said 100%. And also that's not even what I thought of when I thought of like Shelby innovating the industry. I was like, the fucking 48-hour film, the 48-hour wedding, like the list would go on. But can you tell us a little bit about those? Because I feel like that is very groundbreaking in your industry as well.
It's pretty inspiring. So I started off with the 48-hour film. That was the first thing that I really did that shook everything. That was like, ooh, she's here to do something fun. She's here to like bring something new. And that's what a lot of people know me for.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, allowing couples to relive their day within 48 hours. And that is an experience that I created for them. And I've expanded on that with the 48-hour wedding, which includes photography, videography, and content creation, all delivered in 48 hours.
That's insane.
I'm obsessed with 48 hours.
Like, unheard of.
I think it's the best timeline ever, because it also means like a lot of my couples, they have family overseas, you know, they've got families, you know, in the UK that couldn't come over, then they get to experience it. But not only that, it also means that the couples, they're waking up, they're either on their honeymoon or they're still with their family and they're reliving every moment. They're not waiting 3 to 6 months, you know.
Yeah.
There's wedding vendors out there who are delivering up to 6 months after. Like, ew, that's disgusting. Like, you know,
we get it. Shit takes time, but but this is your whole argument, right? It's like, if you charged correctly, set your business model up correctly, focused on the experience over
1000%.
what, you know, the industry expects or the price someone expects or whatever, that you could actually deliver an extraordinary experience, like bring the whole wedding back in 48 hours. That's actually insane.
Exactly. And I think a lot of wedding vendors will water down their services and charge within the category that they feel comfortable or what everyone else is doing, or, you know, feeling, oh, I'm still new in the game. Like, I don't have enough experience. They'll have that limiting belief around it. And then they'll water down the experience because they're so burnt out and they're so exhausted. Whereas I do the exact opposite. I produce an extraordinary package in 48 hours, but in that 48 hours, I'm alive. I'm fucking killing it. Like, I'm in my zone. And that feels so good to me, because I also know that I would never overextend myself to being so burnt out and being like, shit, I've got back-to-back 48-hour, you know, timeline. It's being paid to do an extraordinary service and then delivering that's the difference. And that's what a lot of wedding vendors, they don't do. They'll undercharge, they'll water things down, you know, just to get the booking, right? We're not about that in my world.
Yeah. And I think this goes for every industry. Like, you hear this in, you know, I've met this in a million business owners where they try to price down to be accessible, but all it does is burn you out, backlog you, put you in situations where you're not delivering your best work. And then it's actually, honestly, if we're to call it what it is, out of integrity with what you're here to do and the experience you're here to give. And like, anyone, just imagine, like, compared, you know, you could run 8 weddings a month and be back to back all weekend, every weekend, have a backlog you're thinking about of stuff you got to edit or do or whatever it is.
It's
or
gross.
Imagine if you know, maybe the answer is charging twice as much, working with half as many people, how good you could do in that work, like how quality that experience could be. And it doesn't mean everything we do has to be expensive, but why not? But, you know, like, it's more that, what do you actually want to bring to the world? And can we start there instead of watering what you want to bring to the world down
1000.
to meet someone's budget that maybe probably isn't even your ideal client, because your ideal client wants you to do your best artistic work.
Yeah. I think I have 2 points coming off of this. The first one, I had a conversation with a photographer who wanted to come into my world last year, and she was, you know, talking about how she had 26 weddings backlogged, right? 26 edits backlogged, and she still wasn't being paid every week. And she was exhausted, and she had so much resentment to those 26 weddings because it feels heavy.
Yeah.
Every moment you're thinking, oh my God, I've still got all of that editing to do. And I think that's the big, big difference. Whereas I don't feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never want to feel that. And I've built my business around not feeling that.
Yeah. And we'll trick ourselves because we'll say, I love it. And you do love it, but you'd love it so much more if you were rested.
I promise.
If you got to play, if you got to do the things you wanted to do.
If you got to bring like support on the wedding day, you know, what does that look like? There's so many different aspects that, you know, increasing your prices and building a business model around that can entail. You know, it can have, you know, support on a wedding day. It can have support on the back end, you know, all of those things to make such a delicious wedding business. The second point, I had a second point.
I always do this. I'm like, 2 points, and then I forget where I am by the time we get to this.
I'm sure it'll come back.
Okay. Well, I know, working from you, that the wedding industry can be really sticky in general. Like, there's, you know, the wedding industry's been forever. It's been around for a long time. And also, you know, almost every single person we know in our lives experiences it at some point, which means we get a very wide variety of opinions around, you know, how often have we heard weddings are so expensive and the wedding surcharge and the wedding tax, whatever it is, all those sorts of things. So like when you're coming up with something so innovative for the industry, something so new and different to what anyone else has going on and probably a price to match it, like what goes through your head? Are you focused 100% on like, this is just the coolest thing I've ever come up with and I need to do it? Or are you actually processing the fears and thoughts of like, what are people going to think? Is this going to work? Are people paying for this? What are my colleagues and stuff going to think too?
Yeah. Oh, this is an interesting one. So in my world, I call these people the wedding dinosaurs that have opinions that, you know, follow the same trends, you know, price around other people, just have such a simple, basic service. There's nothing fun. They're just, you know, cheap, easy to book and don't really care.
Same as everyone else.
Same as everyone else, essentially. So when you know, anyone listening, when I refer to the wedding dinosaurs, you know who I'm talking about. But I think it's interesting. I would say at the start when I was coming out with the 48-hour film, it came from a place of innovation, excitement, but also a lot of I wanted to shake the tree and be like, hear me out. Like, I've got something really cool. Like, look at me. Like, I wanted that
Your projector
spotlight.
energy. Like, somebody see me.
Somebody see me. I've got something really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, and reflecting on that, I think that launch, it has it built my business, right? But it's also helped shape every new innovation from that because I get a lot of projections.
Yeah.
I see a lot of projections. I hold a lot of projections and, you know, does it get easier? You know, sometimes for sure. Some things can, hit hard. I tend to nowadays just make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Unless it's a serious thing that I want to consider taking on feedback, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's two different things.
Yeah.
But I think it's so funny looking at my leadership now, you know, I used to get so like butthurt, devastated. Like, you know, like any comment would like interrupt my marketing cycle. It would stop me from selling. Like it would truly put like such a placement on my business that it stopped, right? And I had to work on this leadership skill of, you know, any projections, letting them simply glide over.
Yeah.
You know, making a joke, like, you know, replying back from a place of love.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, I do everything because I have such a big love for the industry. And that's where I, you know, teach from in the academy. It is from a place of I want so much more. But at the start of this, when I didn't have this leadership skill, it came from a place of fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
It was that like, you don't get me, you're just projecting.
I'm actually better than you.
I'm actually so much fucking better. Listen to me. But now it comes from a true place of leadership and skill and just so much love and just humor.
Yeah.
Really, like, you know.
That's so beautiful. Like that's, you know, something we've gone through together is like really understanding that if you are coming from a place of love, if it's deeply from this place of like you just wanting so much better for the wedding industry, if someone has something negative to say about that, it's so hard to hate on someone who's just moving in love.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like the asshole. There's no room to like wiggle this mean comment in there because we're just like glowing in light and love. And it's like, what are you going to do? Like, it's obviously you and it's not me when it's like that. But when we're almost like you were saying in the beginning, where you were in a little bit more of that shadow of like, I want people to see me, and then people would not see you or see the wrong thing, then of course it's going to trigger
it comes
all
from
of those
such a different place,
emotions and spiral you. Like it's like it's got that power. Whereas when you integrate it and you're like, okay, not everyone's going to get it, and I have to be okay with that because the mission is bigger. Yeah, and I'm going to move for that anyway.
1000%. And it's so interesting beautiful. When I reflect on, because obviously I have my own podcast. Obviously, I do Weddings Unfiltered.
Please, go
you know, and we've had this podcast for almost 2 years now, right? And when I reflect back onto my start, like some of the episodes at the start, they came from such a fire, such a like hate that no one was following me, such a like why aren't you just listening to me? I promise my advice is good. Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
And now it's interesting. I listened to the episodes and it comes from a place of integrity, 1000%, 100% integrity. Everything I say there, I make sure comes from that place of integrity so that I know if any projections come from it, I know that I'm in integrity myself.
Yeah.
So that I don't really need to hold any of those projections. I know I'm already in integrity. But it also comes from this place of I'm doing something different. I'm innovating. I'm leading. Come with me or don't. I don't really care. Like, you either get to be extraordinary and you come with me and, we do the work together, or you don't. And that's so fine.
Yeah. Okay, so we know that you handle a lot of projections. Can you give us a couple of specific examples where someone's had something to say, and especially being in like the Perth community, it's so small. This is people's biggest fear, that someone you actually know or like or is a peer or is close to you is going to have opinions on what you're doing that maybe aren't so nice. So can you tell us any stories of times you've handled that and, maybe not spontaneously combust and it's all gone okay in the end?
Shut down my business, freak out, throw it all in the bin. No, that's fair. I think the first example that comes to mind was one I dealt with last wedding season, where a wedding vendor directly went to the couple and essentially said, you shouldn't have hired her. She's really shit. You don't even need a content creator. Like, why did you hire that person? And unfortunately it led to the couple actually having to have a really awkward conversation with me, because I was not known that this happened and things. So they came to me, and I think what the beautiful part of it was that they felt so safe to come to me and have that conversation and be like, this is what we've just experienced, like, I guess, like, they wanted that, almost that reassurance that I'm a good person, I'm all of that. But then they also knew deep down that what that wedding vendor was saying wasn't true. Right. So we had this beautiful conversation where I was able to reassure them, they'd already seen the examples of my work. They already knew, like, it didn't take much reassurance because I'd already built that relationship and value creating that safety space for my couples.
And if they'd actually talked to you, like, you're like a bubbly, loving human,
yeah, I am pretty loving. But obviously what came from that is then moving to the wedding day, where I had to work with this vendor, and we had to be a team on the day. And I spoke about this recently in another podcast episode, is how I led myself through that day, right? And I think there was a part of me that was nervous. And I'll never hide that. I didn't sleep the night before. I rang my friend who was supporting me, because I always have an assistant at weddings, but that wasn't a particularly big package, so it didn't need an assistant. I was able to do it myself, but I brought an assistant with me to support me through that day, and just have that support system, because I really, really value that. And I am only human, right?
Yeah, we're allowed to be like,
yeah, and I knew that there was a part of me that was nervous knowing the opinions of this wedding vendor. Not that I value their opinion, right? It is just a projection on how they're feeling about the industry. And I knew that logic side of it, but my nervous system was still like, I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
But how I led myself through that day was knowing that what I pride myself on doing is creating the most beautiful, extraordinary day for my couple, and they will always come first. No matter what happens, they are my biggest top priority. And I've always kept it that way. And I kept it that way on the day. So I led myself through just neutral leadership, right? It's not like I was buddy-buddy with this person, but we still worked as a team, and I did that to my best capacity.
Yeah.
Did that person lead themselves on the day? That's up to them to decide and, reflect on for their own beings. I have my own opinions, but it's not for me to just air out, right?
Yeah.
That's up to them to reflect on their own leadership. I will say something that I did have to really reflect on and really feel my feelings, right, about was, on this day, this wedding vendor did shove me out of the way, and
like physically,
and I actually have the video because I was recording at the time, and you see all of my equipment get shoved, right? And that to me, that was a circumstance that I've never experienced before, right? I've dealt with projections online, I've dealt with opinions, I've had wedding vendors not like me. That's all right? It's just projection, and I'm so fine to hold and deal with that. But when it comes to on the day, already like having all of this behind me, and then that happening, right? There was a part of me that was like, so many layers, right? But even though that happened, I led the day with prioritizing the couple, and I led the day with a lot of love. Those were my two biggest takeaways. And my third takeaway is I led with integrity through that day of not taking the carrot, not biting on, not playing into it. It was just integrity, love, and leadership, right?
Yeah.
And, there was a conversation at dinner time projecting more about content creators of, how there's, so many popping up in the industry. And, I see Facebook posts all the time, like I'm offering free content creation because I'm starting my biz. And do you know what I said? I was like, yeah, how fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
I was like, how cool is it that we get to grow our community, that we get more wedding vendors to love on, right?
Yeah.
That there's more wedding vendors to lean on and create a network. And it just so happened that day, funnily enough, in America, content creation had actually been so we've always been categorized with videographers, but this day America had decided to separate those categories. So we got our own little category, which is huge. And I brought up that fact, and immediately I just saw the impact of that, oh yeah, okay. Like she's not going to play into my bullshit. She's not going to play into what I want to talk about and what I want to be so little about. She's actually so much bigger than that. And that really showcased through their response and their reaction of just shutting down, admittedly.
Yeah. But things can't hurt you if you're not open to be hurt by them.
Yeah.
Like if you don't think you're doing little content creation, if someone says you're doing little content creation, it's like, who are you talking to, bro? Because it's not me, because I don't feel like that.
Exactly.
And when you own it and stand on it like that, the power behind these things goes away quickly, and the power people think they have over you when you're not affected by their opinions or whatever it is that they're trying to make you feel. If you don't feel like that, then they're left feeling silly because they took a shot and it didn't land.
Exactly. They tried to dangle the carrot and I didn't bite,
Yeah.
Like it just, it's just so interesting. I think if that comment had been at the start of my journey, I would have reacted. I would have, and it wouldn't have been in integrity, right? It wouldn't have been the way that I wanted. And it would have been this ammunition, right? For them to be like, oh, she said this. When I'm not, my mission is so much bigger than that. My impact is so much bigger than that. Like I help so many wedding vendors, and that's what I focus in on now.
Yeah.
Right? The love that I have for that, the love that I have for my mission, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. And, even from this transition of, transitioning from content creator to filmmaker, I've had so many projections on that. Even, that transition where in reality, right, this is just me expanding my ecosystem in an editing context, expanding my ecosystem in an equipment context, expanding my skills, expanding my knowledge, producing better quality. But the projections I had on that were huge.
It's almost like in any other industry, what you're doing is so
it's like
perfectly reasonable and just a growth that you're having.
Yeah.
But in the wedding industry, it's like they're seeing you're falling out of these categories. You're like, already you're in content creator category, which is like not allowed and something new, and we don't like it and we don't get it. And then now as you've moved into the level of filmmaking that you're doing, and it's like now we're even like beyond or expanded beyond content creation, which now you're even bothering new people, but you're also like creating an alternative potentially to videography, which is like we talked about before. It's like there's so many different videographers and stuff, and it's not that any of them are doing anything bad, but they're all in that kind of lane trying to make that lane their own, whereas you're just creating your own.
Exactly.
And that's always going to make people uncomfortable. Like people are naturally triggered by things that they wouldn't do or haven't seen the power in themselves or the capacity in themselves to be able to do, or ideas they've had that they've shut down and not done, you know, so
Or
seeing
even, like,
someone out there so free and just following their dreams is actually like highly frustrating for people who aren't.
One of the biggest projections that I've had at the moment is how can she afford to do that? That's a projection that I've had a lot recently, which it's really interesting, and I haven't played into it, right? I haven't defended myself, like, you know, it's all good, whatever you think, but I think that part, I just have a little giggle to myself. I'm like, that's really interesting.
But that's just such a clear story that they're telling themselves of I can't afford to do that. And it's like, if you don't think Shelby can afford to do that anyway, that just means Shelby's making decisions you wouldn't do.
Yeah.
She's putting her ass on the line in ways that you wouldn't do.
Exactly.
You're saying like, I wouldn't spend my money on that. I wouldn't find money to spend on that. Whereas Shelby's like, well, it matters to me and I believe in myself, so I will.
Yeah. 1000%.
Yeah. It's always just airing out something about ourselves, isn't it? What do you think about like that story that you just told of being like shoved at the wedding and everything? That's crazy. So amazing that you were able to, you know, stay in your leadership and integrity and just work, you know, focus on the couple and the mission that's so much bigger than us, which is always such a great message of anytime you're in your feelings, when you come back to the mission, it's like it's so much bigger than your fucking feelings. So we're going to move
bigger
forward.
than that Instagram comment, that DM that you got, right?
Yeah.
Like, who fucking cares?
But something that I think sometimes can happen when we're so positive and we're so good at holding our own feelings and moving past them is that then sometimes we don't honor them. So it's like at that day, you really moved for the couple. That was the priority.
Yeah.
After that day, there's still a person who did that to you and that still matters.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe it wasn't the priority on the day, but it still matters. So I feel like you already drew some boundaries when you said what you said during that content creation conversation. But what about
so much love
outside of that? Like, what boundary are you going to draw maybe with that vendor or that situation to honor yourself as well? Because you were still, I mean, essentially like physically harmed and put in a situation at that time.
I would say it's interesting you ask this boundary question, because I actually think my boundaries would come from pushing my mission further. That's what it would come from. It wouldn't come from this like small place of I'm never working with that vendor again. It like I'm not in a mindset where like that's my focus. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
Like if a couple came to me because they are obsessed with my work, love me, and had that vendor booked, I would still say yes to that couple.
Yeah,
because my couple matters first, right? So like my big mission is for engaged couples and for wedding vendors. And you know, that's what I really care about. I think where my boundaries come into this would actually be, you know, me communicating my mission further. And, you know, one of these big things that I've been feeling recently is, you know, in the wedding industry, there's often in the media team a hierarchy, right? You know, photographer, videographer, and then content creator. And one of my big things that I've been speaking about a lot recently is that hierarchy that really shouldn't exist. If anything, it should be videographers first. Do you know, you can edit a person out of a photo, you can't edit it out of a video. AI isn't that good yet. Like, do you know what I mean? But my boundary comes from projecting this mission as engaged couples always come first. That's where my boundary would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it makes sense to me that like if a couple came to you and wanted to have both of you as vendors, that you would still move forward with that, providing you feel safe. But I feel like there's a line there of like where you get to message him and be like, by the way, from a very grounded place, I am unavailable for anything that looks anything like the bullshit that you pulled last time.
1000%.
And I will be here because it's important to the couples and I like to believe you can be a grown-up.
Yeah, literally. So I think there would be that beautiful grown-up conversation that comes from just such a grounded place of me setting those boundaries. But I think the thing that I'm trying to get across right now is for anyone in business, right, where you're thinking about these boundaries, we often think about such a small boundary. You know, most people would say like, oh, you know, I'd never work with that vendor again, or I would never do this. But it's like, No.
That doesn't solve the problem.
That doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't align with your mission, right? Let's, have the boundaries in, what our mission is. And my mission is that the media team need to be a team so that the engaged couple are always, always, always prioritized. And that's really, really important to me and a part of my values and my mission. So
adding that to the list of all of our tech problems today.
So what I do is I have a grown-up conversation with this wedding vendor and I say, hey, this isn't going to happen again.
Yeah.
This is how this day is going to look. We're going to work together as a team. And that just connects right back to the mission.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come at it from a place of love for my engaged couple.
Yeah. And actually, it's maybe like you're putting yourself back, not to say we should ever put ourselves in dangerous situations or anything like that. And that, we're not even saying that's what that situation was, but let's be honest, we can't be touching people. But, you would actually put yourself back into the mix where some people would say, well, that's just a boundary. I'm not available for these people. It's like at the end of the day, the Perth industry is small. And if you want to change that hierarchy, you have to stay in the mix. You have to keep working with these people to be able to make that change. You have to be in it. You can't just walk away from it and avoid all of those things. You're actually having to
have the conversation.
Interesting, because I feel like both boundaries could be so correct in different environments. But it's it's a great conversation.
I just think I'm not available for small shit. If an engaged couple loves me, I'm not going to say no because of how this other wedding vendor acted.
Yeah, and we're not going to be telling someone who they can and can't hire. That's not the energy we've got time for. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so let's wrap up a little bit and just gas yourself up. Like, what are you doing?
Why are we wrapping up? I want to keep talking.
Tell us, like, what are you doing right now, or what are you working through, or what are you creating that makes you just someone we should be following? Like, why should we be paying attention to Shelby right now? How are you moving? What are you pushing through? What are you creating? Tell us, like, what's going on.
That's a loaded question. I love it.
I'm sure you'd have 40 things to say, but
possibly. I'll keep it low. I think the first thing is why you should be following me is why the fuck aren't you following me in the first place, right? Okay. Things that I'm focusing on is a lot of PR at the moment. Yes. I was recently on Sunrise, which was fucking epic. I have a Q&A coming out in Inside Small Business, which is really fun. And I have my first published article in Mamma Mia. So I'm officially a published author technically, which is really cool. So I'm focusing a lot on PR and visibility and just spreading my mission and getting, showing the entire world who I am. Like, I love Perth wedding vendors, but I'm now like,
going bigger.
We're going bigger. Like, I've got vendors in the academy from, the East Coast and things like that. And we love that. So I'm just going a lot bigger, going worldwide.
We're leading the industry.
Yeah. I'm not just, trying to help Perth wedding vendors. In saying that though, as I am the president of the WA Wedding Association, which is really, really cool. And the association is all about helping wedding vendors and building a community here. And, we do workshops and co-working and, we have in-person events. And that's really a fun way that I can, connect with so many other wedding vendors as well. So I love that. For my engaged couples, I'm currently working on a new package. It's so funny. At the start of the year, I said, like, I'm not going to create anything new.
Yeah, we're focusing on the Wedding Vendor Academy.
Lol. But I had to. When something feels so 110% aligned, it's almost this like, I can't act in integrity if I don't do this, right?
You've just had such an inspirational year though, that like, of course your creativity is coming out of like, I'm leading the industry in every direction.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really, really exciting. What else am I doing?
I mean, I think that's enough things for now. We are spreading the mission. Yeah, your PR is going crazy, which is so fun. And I think even just like Shelby is someone to follow. If you are a wedding vendor, you need to be following her because she's going to blow your mind constantly on what's possible for wedding vendors. It's so easy to get trapped in, this old school industry where everything you just sell whatever your service is. That's kind of the same as everyone else's. You try to make yourself a little bit special about it. But if you're not doing Shelby's work of like amping up your social media and your personal brand and making sure that you actually stand out, even in whatever you're doing, like there's no way you're going to stand out in that industry. You just get trapped on everyone else's prices. You just get trapped in the same referral circles. And if you're not number one, then you're missing out on everything. Or you can be even bigger and better and like innovate and create more extraordinary experiences like Shelby's going to push you to and really like take over the industry in a massive way, be seen. Like, why aren't you on the news? Like, what is not, you know, why are we thinking that we're so not special to not be on the freaking news? You know, of course, if you are running a business and doing something special, you should be seen and paid for it. And if you don't feel like that, do something extraordinary and then come back to us.
I will say, you remember at the start when I was like 2 points?
Yeah.
I remembered.
You remembered the point? Okay. Serve the point.
So I need to serve this point. A mistake that I think a lot of wedding vendors do, and I see this so often, and this is a part of my mission of what I'm trying to change, is you'll see a wedding vendor come in and they'll often say like, you know, 50% off my service. I'm doing my first few, you know, all of that. And what they actually do is they get trapped in this lower budget wedding, right? Because the people who don't have a big budget see that as an amazing opportunity. So they'll get trapped in a lower budget wedding, and then that'll be their entire portfolio. Their entire business is now based on that dream client. When we know if we want to be known, seen, and paid, our dream client might be, you know, at a different venue. They'll be looking at different vendors. They won't be looking at the discounts and things. And so I actually think a lot of wedding vendors budget trap themselves at the very start of their business. Whereas if you built a portfolio, yes, you may have to do some free work, but if you're doing that free work at the Western,
at the best,
at the
highest level,
at the highest level, right? And you're connecting with wedding vendors at that highest level. I actively do this. I did a free wedding vendor trailer for the biggest planner here in Perth, and it was a $500,000 wedding.
Yes.
Which is insane. But I did that because I wanted to get my foot in the door of that, right?
Yeah. Getting your foot in the door is not like, I'm going to offer like $300 wedding. Like what door are you trying to go through?
1,000%. It may be that, you know, the first maybe 2 weddings you do for free, right? But then after that, you produce the most extraordinary experience. You build the most gorgeous, delicious portfolio that then you can go ahead and be like, okay, now this is $5,000 and come in strong, rather than, you know, starting off at 300 and then 500. Do you know how much that is after tax?
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing.
And not even starting there. Like the people that we're talking about, usually you've been already doing it for years. You just you've been trapped in that bubble for a long time. And this applies to every industry. Like, and people do the same thing.
An absolute problem that I see all the time in the wedding industry. And it is part of my mission to try and, you know, get that message across that there's so much more out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much more extraordinary weddings.
Yeah.
You know,
and I feel like this circles back to your point of that projection that you had of like, how is Shelby affording to do this?
Yeah.
Is you are just investing in the way you want your business to be. If you want to serve this level of incredible experience in your business, you have to create that before anyone comes, before anyone's paying for it. You know, when I'm setting up my event, I'm just booking the room, I'm creating how I want it to be. And then whether 5 people come or 50 people come, that is the evidence, that is the portfolio, that is what people see me for. That's how they see my brand, that's how they see me. So like that is so important that you move the way you want to be paid and the way you want to be seen before you get there. No one is going to validate you before you get there.
No
like
you to save you.
Yeah.
Right. Also, no one cares that much about you. No one do that. Right.
Yeah.
You have to
do something to make them care.
Literally. Sometimes I just want to shake wedding vendors when I, you know.
Coming back to baby Shelby, being like, why don't you see me? Because you're not doing anything good yet. Yeah. Do something good and everyone will start watching.
Exactly. Be on the fucking news like me. Come on.
Yeah. Get yourself somewhere. And we always feel like that is so far away or I have to earn that or something. No. Like the number of people I see PR the shit out of themselves and I don't even actually know what they do because I've never seen them sell an offer. They're just all over the news because whatever it is that you want to do, you can achieve if you actually follow through with it and put the value on yourself already that's where I am, that's where I'm going, that's what I want to do. Like whether you're in the wedding industry or any industry, whatever that goal is, like you want to be a leader, you have to go first before people tell you you're great, before people tell you you're worth the $10,000, before any of that shit happens, is you acting like it, moving like it, spending your money on it, spending your time on it, putting
your ass on the line.
Your ass in uncomfortable situations and earning your seat, but from a place of like backing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like almost this love for self-confidence, right?
Yeah.
This like undeniable, unshaken self-confidence.
Yeah. A kink for like
backing
the fuck
yourself.
of
Yeah. It's like when
scary.
when I was on Sunrise and we did like a mini interview afterwards to add to my like mini documentary series. And I said in the interview, I was like, of course I was going to be on Sunrise. I have been working my ass off for 5 months in PR, pitching, getting no's. Like every single thing was a rejection, you know, like before my Mamma Mia article, you know, got published, I sent 20 in. Like no one sees that, right?
No, people see you on Sunrise and be like, oh, well, Shelby's the industry leader. So of course they got Shelby. Like Shelby fought for her life still.
Yeah. That was 5 months of pitching and that was my first yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when we're leading the industry, when we're doing something extraordinary, it comes from a place of backing yourself, not giving up. Because realistically, what if the next time is a yes? What if the next time is your dream engaged couple? What if the next time changes your entire business? Yeah. And I think when you have that attitude, anything is possible because of course it's going to happen for me.
Yeah. And the mission is so big that it's like, what am I going to do? Give up? All these people with the wedding dinosaurs? No way.
Absolutely not. I'm here to change, here to stay. Right.
Yay. Okay. Well, you can find all of the places to find Shelby and the Wedding Vendor Academy and her most incredible wedding films, you know, if you can get in, because it's a very
only 10 a year.
Yeah. You're better be getting on that wait list than booking.
Yeah.
That will all be in the show notes. So thank you very much, Shelby, for coming. It's been so fun. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.